no geographical boundaries. We believe in cultivating curiosity and transformation that is rooted in profound love. The COVID-19 pandemic has irrevocably shaped how connections are formed in congregations across the United States and the world. The Church of the Larger Fellowship is committed to being a resource within Unitarian Universalism and beyond. From worship to covenant groups, from classes to pastoral care, and from our monthly magazine Quest to our online community hub and our letter writing ministry, we have found ways to build connection and community even through the screen. We have been a model for ministry on the margins, providing services for isolated Unitarian Universalists, becoming a spiritual lifeline for our members in prison. The CLF supports the ministries of those who hold target identities: Blue, Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism; Trust, Transgender Religious UU Professionals Together; and Drum, Diverse Revolutionary Unitarian Universalist Multicultural Ministries, just to name a few. We know better than anyone how deep and meaningful connections can be formed, even from a distance. Unitarian Universalists have faced many challenges in these times, and we continue to persevere and fight for justice and equity for all people, especially during moments of crisis. We are proud to be a leader in this faith movement, and we invite you to get involved in our ministry. We strive to be a place where anyone from anywhere can find spiritual refuge anytime they need it. Welcome to the Church of the Larger Fellowship. We are so excited to bring you an all-new episode of The View. The View is a weekly Unitarian Universalist talk show discussing important faith-based topics from an anti-racist, anti-oppressive, and multicultural perspective. Every Thursday for the past 7 years, we have welcomed guests from every corner of the world. Our guests are writers, scholars, activists, and religious thought leaders who are shaping Unitarian Universalism and society for the 21st century and beyond. I hope today's show inspires you. Hope it builds your faith. Hope it gives you perspective to see the power of Unitarian Universalism at work in your life. Enjoy the message.
Uh-oh.
You're muted,
Aisha.
I'm doing tech today. Tell me I'm doing tech today without telling me I'm doing tech today. I'm Aisha Hauser. My pronouns are she and her. I'm here from Seattle, Washington, land of the Coast Salish people. Welcome to this week's View, where I am trying to do tech. Yay! We have a special guest from the Philippines, Reverend Tet Gallardo, who will join us in 2 seconds after we all introduce ourselves. And Dante, how are you doing? Where are you? How are you?
I'm pretty good. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm Dante Hilliard. I serve as a Learning Fellow for Worship at CLF. I am here in the land of the Piscataway people, Baltimore, Maryland, USA, where the horde of Unitarian Universalists shall descend for our GA in just a short amount of time. And we're finally getting actual summer-ish weather now, but it's actually spring-ish because my allergies are still activated because spring didn't get to spring. So the pollen's like, we're not done. I know it's technically June, but we're not done yet. So that's how it's going for me. Hey, DC, what's going on?
Hey, Dante. Hey, everybody. I'm DC. I'm Reverend DC Fortune, pronouns he, him, and I am in the central Pennsylvania Susquehanna River Valley, ancestral home of the Susquehannock people. And Dante's excited because it's spring. I am resentful because it's almost 90 degrees is what it is. Um, yeah, we have different ideas about what spring is. And I'm kind of looking forward to moving north by about almost 600 miles soon. But yeah, it's beautiful here in the valley. It's sunny. It's a little muggy. It's going to be 87 today, which I'm still not entirely at peace with. But okay, like weather happens, it happens. There's nothing moral or immoral or there is stuff offensive about it, but that's just me. Um, Michael, how are things up there in New York?
Greetings, everyone. Michael Tino here. Pronouns are they and them. Joining you from Peekskill, New York, in the Hudson Valley, a little north of New York City, the land of the Kitchewan, Wappinger, and Munsee Lenape peoples, where it is expected to get up to 92, and it is sunny except for the haze from the Canadian wildfires today. And I complained last week. I'm going to own this. I'm owning it. I complained last week that March had stolen May, and that it had hung on, and that my poor little tomato plants were out there in the garden going, "Where the fuck is my warmth?" And March has skipped right to July,
Mhm.
and the tomato plants are loving it. And like Dante, I am feeling the effects of the fact that all the plants that were holding back because they thought it was still March are like, oh, good, it's July now. I better get rid of all this pollen. And I'm hoping that the rain that is coming through this week will wash some of that out of the air, and we can move on to breathing again. I am here in my bright yellow, my UU Faith Demands Abolition, CLF abolition t-shirt, which you too can own one of if you like. And I'm going to put the link in the chat. You can also, by the way, this is our ad time, get CLF swag that is not abolition related, except that we are an abolitionist church. And so you will see me wearing all of my CLF chalices at General Assembly. And I love the fact that we're selling t-shirts because it means that I have an excuse to wear t-shirts throughout General Assembly. I don't have to I know DC is like, you need an excuse?
Like what?
I do. I feel an obligation to do it professionally at GA, but this is my professional outfit at GA now, and it's all good. It's going to be hotter in New York than in Montgomery, Texas today, says Darby. And listen, Darby's question for Dante is, does she pack her regular sneakers or her puddle-resistant sneakers for Baltimore? And let me tell you, I would go with the puddle-resistant sneakers because it is not particularly rainy there most years in the Baltimore, mid-Atlantic, and this year has not been most years. Like here in New York, we are at 250% of our annual rainfall already. Just from the last the last 6 weeks. So
also there's Murphy's Law. Like if you pack the regular ones, it'll rain like hell.
I also want to hear what Dante, who actually lives in Baltimore, says.
Well, I was actually going to say, typically I'd be like, no, we don't do a lot of summer rain, but the seasons are not seasoning in the ways that we have understood them to season.
They are not seasoning.
That's right.
The Old Bay got twisted.
July might give way to April, in which case it'll be rainy again.
Oh, yeah. Jesus. So now, if it's hot, it's going to be hot. We don't really do a lot of in between. But again, it's been Midwestern fall up until last week. So I don't.
So we're going to move on from weather.
It's been like July in San Francisco.
which is not as warm as one would think. But anyway, so we're going to do you roundup because we have a guest from the Philippines that I want to bring on in 1 minute. But I do want to, because we are the CLF, talk about the board's announcement this week very briefly, in that we are appreciative of Christina Rivera's work with the CLF, and she resigned and will be moving on to bigger and better things, I'm sure. And we appreciate working with her. And so, moving on, Reverend Michael and I will be the co-lead team of two, the dynamic duo, Wonder Twin Powers Activate. And prison ministry will continue, and we will make sure that it thrives along with all the other ministries of the CLF. And so that is that announcement. And we thank everyone who's online. I'm now going to, again, remember, I am doing tech this week. I am now bringing on Reverend Tet Gallardo. Tet.
Hello.
Hello,
everyone. I'm Reverend Tet Gallardo. I'm here from with you from the Philippines. We didn't grab any land from anyone, so I don't have land acknowledgement. and, and it is midnight, or a little past midnight, so you have to forgive me if I'm a little bit, hazy on the details of my own book, which I just realized had some sections omitted, which is my bad, not the editors. Just tonight, I was like, oh, so this is not in my book.
Ted, can you tell us that you are a UU minister? So I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey. You are in the Philippines; it's where you live. You are, Filipino, and I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey.
Sure. First of all, a lot of people might think, hey, she speaks English really well. And this is going to come as a surprise that the Philippines is the fourth largest or fifth largest English speaking country in the world in terms of population. Anyway, I was the Balash Scholar 2016, 2017, when Aisha and I met over at the GA in New Orleans, I think.
Yeah.
And I was the president of the UU Church of the Philippines. That's around 20 to 25, depending on their status, of accreditation. 20 to 25 fellowships and congregations. So I was the pandemic president, and after that, it was over for me. So, yeah, that's about it. But I think my crowning glory for today is that I got an email that the song that I presented to a few churches over there when I was a Balash Scholar, the song that I wrote, will make it to the General Assembly's debut of the new online hymnal, which is Sing Out Loud. Yeah.
Wow.
Fantastic.
The title is Psalm for Change.
Wow.
Because I wrote it during Mahatma Gandhi Day at the Khasi Hills when I was there. So,
wow.
Psalm for Change.
Nice. I didn't know you were in the Khasi Hills. You've been everywhere.
It's crazy. Yeah. Neurodivergence. I don't know how tolerant you'll be tonight.
We're going to be we are so happy you're here. And thank you for joining us at midnight. The time zones are, I think they're a riot, and we only have 3 hours to deal with the United States. You're, I don't know how to do math. You're a lot more ahead.
Yeah, I'm from the future. Let's just say that.
And I think everyone on this screen is pretty atypically identified anyway.
Right? Happy Pride Month!
Woo! Happy Pride! I got my Pride earrings on. Yes.
Wow.
We stole the rainbow, according to the conservatives. We stole the rainbow from God.
From the Christians.
So us. Yes.
So crazy. Anyway, what are you guys up to in terms of friendship?
Friendship to me is how we're going to defeat fascism. I think that's the point of your book, right? Like, I think the premise is it is not an accident, I think, that the United States has the loneliest people in the world. I think that is by design, because it maintains violent extractive capitalism. Because if we were invested in each other as human beings, we would not uphold the systems that exist right now.
right? And if we were invested in each other, we'd be wiser in terms of knowledge exchange. We would know which is the truth, which is not, because we'll be peering into each other's lives and knowing, which theories actually work in each other's lives, right? So we would know, oh, the vax works, right? Something like that.
So tell us about your book. What's in it? What's the name of it? How can people get it? We could put the link to it.
Oh yeah. Sadly, it's on Amazon.com because it's a platform where I can announce stuff, but I would really love if people ordered it personally from me. Oh, the dogs!
Hi, puppies. How do people? You'll put the if you put the link in the private chat, we can post it for everybody. You can let
Right,
us
right.
at it.
Yeah, I would probably just ask them to go to Amazon and look for me because
Okay.
yeah, it's there. And also, I'm working on it so that there are hard copies available during the GA at the UU World Youth Network booth. UU
Oh,
Win. Yeah. So Shahan is working on it, I think, so that at least there are copies of my book that people can preview, but they're not available for sale. People can just read through them, and if they like it, they can order from me. Don't order from Amazon. Yeah. So my book is the fruits of long labor of trying to sacrifice myself because I'm a highly traumatized child of the 90s. And, as a Catholic, people will say, self sacrifice, and in the 90s, it was like post revolution, post dictatorship period. And so, like we need to restructure our democracy and we need sacrifices from everyone. And so that's what happened. I got myself into 40 plus NGOs over the years, just trying to rebuild this democracy that is barely 40 years old. And then find myself, um, in shock, total shock, that the dictator Ferdinand Marcos, who we booted out so many years ago, his son is the president right now, right? So, and doing some tyrannical work as well. So, yeah, so I guess the book is about all the lessons learned, the failures of the last few decades in combating tyranny. And it's not just structural, it's not just cultural, it's really relational. Because I was thinking, okay, so I'll be a social advocate, I'll advocate for human rights and everything, sacrifice my own privileges, be with the poor, even religious. I got into religious work because I was so dissatisfied with social advocacies as too angry. Okay, let's try religious work. Let's try spiritual work. And still, it doesn't work because within religious organizations, there's still the politics of, the forces are still at work. There are tyrannical forces, there are democratic forces. So I was wondering what's really ailing us as human beings. And it's a lack of familiarity, the culture of contempt, right? The fear of getting close to each other. So I had to really dig deep into my Filipino roots. Like, how did we survive a lot of attempts at colonialism before the colonialism actually happened?
Right.
So, yeah.
Mm.
And what were some of your biggest takeaways?
I'm sorry, it's my dog's time to
No, it's
bark, right?
okay. Listen, did you hear me? What are you? Because it's called "Friends Against the Machine: Humanizing Revolution." I love that title.
So one of my biggest takeaways is never help someone as a lone unit. Whenever we try to get into other people's lives as helpers, we shouldn't do that alone. We should be like, we call it kapit bisig, like arm in arm. Like, I have someone on this arm, I have someone on this arm, and they have someone in their two arms. Like it's like a pyramid of support where
Mm.
I cannot fall alone. People are behind me in this.
Mm.
So in the Philippines, we have the famous bayanihan, where back in the old days, when someone needs their house to be relocated, there's always a chance for people to carry the house, like as a community, like 100 people will carry the house for them, right? So they call it bayanihan, but the literal translation of that comes from the root word bayani, which is hero, and bayanihan means heroes fest. So whenever
Mm.
someone needs you,
That.
it needs a heroes fest, not just one
Mm.
superhero, not just one vigilante or one with a messianic complex, but someone who, because I used to have it, but someone who is with community constantly, right? They are
Mm.
here for community, even when they're here. It appears that they're just here for you. They're actually here for community, right? And
Mm.
and with or by community, right? So that's one of the takeaways. And the other one is that I think Western culture, which has been really ingrained in me, coming from highly colonized universities and colleges where I'm from, um, the isolation that we are taught to have as a sign of independence, as a sign of strength, right? When it's really weakening us, like what you said before, Aisha, like it's weakening us, and our humane systems of connecting with each other is what do you call this, undermined, because if we do know each other better, we would know, for instance, like, is the vax for real or not? Like, this happened to me during the pandemic. I was thinking, some people were not taking the vax and they were getting well. And I'm wondering why. So apparently the vax works, the vax is needed, right? But it's not the single the single solution to the problem, because it has to come with palliative care. And care is always like part of the equation of friendships, right? Of the Filipino community is about the culture of care, the hospitality of care, the service of care, right? So I looked deeper why also the UU Church of the Philippines didn't have a single fatality during that whole pandemic. And I
Wow.
was thinking, wow, there must be something really deep happening here. And of course, one is that they are good with boosting their immunity because they are eating healthy, right? That's one.
Mm.
And second is, they had vaccines, right? But it wasn't enough, because some people who had vaccines still died, but they were not in the church. And the third is the palliative care, like when they have symptoms, like how many people actually help you, bring you the boiled water, bring you the salt for the boiled water, like make sure you are rested. Like when actually, I was infected with COVID three times during the whole thing.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And friends would come with groceries, and they would say, "Hey, here are your groceries at your doorstep. Come on, get better soon." This is how community does
Mm.
it, not just the vax, right?
and and it was automatic, right? Like
Yes.
someone heard, oh, Tet has COVID, we better bring her like all the things that she needs to survive and get better, right? We
Yes.
better bring groceries. We better make sure that Ted is getting enough rest. We better, like that's the way the community response didn't require you to say, please help me. Um, it just happened, right? I'm guessing from the way you're describing it. Is that right?
Yeah, and it's overdone. Like, I found
Mm.
myself with 3 dozen eggs, and I'm like, I can't eat all these eggs. So I had to give some to my neighbors. And so even they benefit from my benefits, right? So it's like
Mhm.
that. It's a network of benefits.
Oh, I
It
love that.
it reminds me of two things, Ted. One, in Black American tradition, what what you were just describing is typically what is our status quo way of behaving when there's a death in a family, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's all the time, but when someone dies, you're going to have all kinds of food. People are going to be dropping off things. You're going to be sick of food. You're going to start giving it away because people are going to say, I may not be able to help you emotionally, but we're going to make sure that you can eat. We're going to make sure that, some of the logistics around this are going to be handled. The other thing that your description around sort of linking arms and sort of a community of superheroes rather than one sort of delusional messianic individual reminds me of Carter Haywood's work about we are called to God, that she talks about Godding. Like it is a thing that we do. God is, so it's plural because it's what we are all called to God. We are called to do Godding in the world. And so when you sort of make this sort of gesture of linking together, I was like, oh, that's like communal Godding, right? Like we are God in this place for you, right? We will provide, we will protect, we will help heal. And I just think that's really beautiful. And I'm really shocked about the numbers you talked about of the few people who passed, because that says something about communal care, the power of communal care, regardless of circumstance, right? Yes.
Right. And right now, there's a Filipino doctor who is crafting like an approach, a communal approach to mental health. And I haven't read the whole book yet, but it's like the whole community provides the sustenance for mental health. And I mean, I think it's going to be miraculous to picture that. Also, about friendships, we have like layers. Like we have a word called pakikipagkapwa-tao, which is to put yourself in the same shoes as another. Then we have karamay, a person and aspirations. Kadaupang palad, a person who shares your plate and fate. A person who makes you feel at home. Kaibigan ranges from acquaintances to intimate friends. There's a lot of when we said before, what I learned from the West is the Greek forms of love, right? Like at 5 or 6 or 7, something like that. And then I dug deep into my culture and I'm like, wow, for friendship alone, there's like 20 for friendship form of love. It's crazy. It's crazy. So I feel like so privileged to be Filipino, right?
And language tells you a lot about what a culture values.
Right.
Right. So that's really fascinating to learn.
Totally. So, for instance, when I was touring Europe, thanks to UU events that had me as a scholar for these, tours, whenever, for instance, I'd say, hey, I'm a Unitarian Universalist, of course, people will go, huh? Right? But if I said, hey, I'm a Filipino, oh my God, a Filipino, like I'd receive all this welcome. I have this really bad habit of getting lost in trains, and it's worse when you do that in the Netherlands because the tracks don't just go one way. Also in Germany, if it's this way for this hour, it could be that way for the next hour, the same track. So I found myself like in one of those getting lost moments. I found myself in front of Germans, and I was asking, "Hey, I'm trying to get to the airport," and I was like a teacher standing up, and they were like a classroom, and they suddenly all gesticulated, like that. And then there was an Indian-looking woman, and I think she was in fact of Indian descent, and then she said, "You know what I can do for you is why don't you get off where I get off, and then I'll just get you an Uber." And people said, "Would you feel safe with that?" I'm like, "I have no choice." Okay. So I go there and she waits for the Uber. And I said, "You don't have to wait for the Uber. I can wait for the Uber. And she goes, "No, no, no. I want to make sure you're safe." So yeah. So her name's Aisha too. And she said, "Yeah, so safe travels for you, right?" So many so many like the kindness of strangers happening to a Filipino is like something that is not popular. It's not a popular notion, but I think the Filipino kindness and friendliness um, is like welcomed in most parts of the world, and in fact, in other parts, it's really abused. The kindness is abused, but it is expected that we are going to care for you, to feed you, or something, right?
I have
Yeah.
members of my family who are Filipino. So my uncle growing up married a Filipino woman, and pancit is one of my favorite foods. I have not been able to find it because the restaurants in Seattle that are Filipino are trying to, I think, cater to white people, which is so annoying because I want pancit, like real pancit, not fake pancit. Anyway, and yes, so warm and loving. And Cynthia, she passed away. May she rest in peace. But it was really fun. Like when we would get together, we'd have the Filipino food. They had to take out the pork because my family's Muslim. So it was Filipino food with chicken instead of pork, and Egyptian food. So it would be this just cultural buffet, and the warmth and generosity of spirit very much matched families. Like it was, very familiar. There's a word that you said, Tet, that reminded me of an Arabic word, karima, which means generosity. And it was close to one of the words you said. And I'm like, yeah, that's similar. And it's a spirit of generosity.
Yeah, like you in Muslim, you have salam and we have salamat, which is
Yeah,
thank you.
that's
Right.
right. Right.
And I think it's also because we also want to acknowledge that the Hindus were a big influence also in the Philippines. Hinduism doesn't have a notion of an evil god or a devil or a demon, right? It's like everything's God energy, right? And I think that's how Filipinos come across like, hey, you're all God energy. I think it's in the, what do you call this, the zeitgeist already, right? So sometimes I wonder, like, am I a pathological people pleaser or am I just a Filipino?
No, you did.
It's
Yes.
crazy.
Yes.
And that's such an interesting question. I think about like U.S. experiences of Filipino people that are not like based in one-to-one friendships, because I certainly know enough folks who are Filipino that don't like necessarily
Yeah,
go
we
to a
adopt you,
stereotype.
right? Like,
Yeah,
hey, you're part of us now. Boom.
but it's like there's a huge number of Filipino nurses in the United States, and I'm wondering if like nursing as a career, like as a profession, is something that's like closely related to this caring for one another
Yeah, right. It's like the care
culturally.
industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Um,
I worked for an international union for a couple of years, and yeah, the U.S. has had a nursing shortage for years, and we've been filling it with Filipino nurses.
right.
Now, again, my experience with Filipino people has been absolutely beautiful. I never understood why we don't also train people who are already here to be nurses, but we do have a huge contingent of Filipino folks serving, and particularly in the care industry. And I was thinking the same thing, Reverend Michael, that this sort of cultural reality may be under that you're explaining to us, Ted, is under it. Like, to care for the community is sacred, right? That
Mm.
is of honor and of worth. And when we, which is a shame, because when we think about in the hierarchy of medical professionals, we treat nurses really badly. like like in the US extractive capitalist system, right? But like we also treat teachers badly, like the people
And there's a
responsible.
lot of Filipino teachers as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right, but like white European culture that is the hegemonic culture in the United States doesn't value caring for other people. Doesn't value professions that
Get
center
priority.
needs.
Right. It prioritizes exploitation.
Right.
Well,
Mm.
because the caretakers are women, and it's deeply misogynist, and the women who,
Yep.
the burning of witches were burning of women who had a lot of knowledge about healing and medicine all throughout Europe, and so that's just deeply misogynist, and you know the long list of fuck shit about patriarchy and misogyny.
Well, and racist, right? Because white
And
supremacist. So on plantations, you keep trying to convince me that my ancestors were not human, but you had my great grandmothers wet nursing your children and raising your children and
Mhm.
food, and so you don't. It's not that you think we're not human. It is that you think care is beneath you.
that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
But
So to practice, so one of the steps I think to practice care is what I call paligid pilgrimage, which is paligid means proximate. So the pilgrimage to the proximate, right? So go and do it to the next person, like who's in front of you, who's beside you, just do it there. That's your pilgrimage right there. So
Mm,
like exercise the divinity, the holy, everything that's in you, and just do it and immerse, right? I was really moved by a Methodist reverend, when I was when the UUA had me hosted in North Carolina in 2014, I think. There was a Reverend Brian Combs who was sort of like an adopted son of the host, and so he taught us about, there was a group of us from different countries, and he taught us, his practice is just not just to be with, he has a TED talk that says charity is evil, something like that. He's saying, no, we're not here to be charitable, we're here to be them, to be known as them, like
mm,
that. So not to stand out as, oh, that's the leader, or that's the one who hosts them. That's the charitable worker right there. You should be people should be unable to identify you as that.
mm, mm,
It's awesome.
mm,
Like, I was like, wow. And the way he explains it, and I hope you find this guy somehow in YouTube, is like, it's really just moving. He says that it's my pilgrimage. It's not like I'm doing them a favor, they're doing me a favor. My pilgrimage is that temple of the Holy Spirit that is born there. It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
well, because charity is it's like the nonprofit industrial complex, really globally, NGOs, is separate. It separates. It doesn't. It's not an acknowledgement of our destinies being tied together. Speaking of which, you can see my cafe over here. I got an extra one for when it's hot, and I go to GA. So there's a flotilla going to attempting to go to Gaza to feed the starving population that is being intentionally starved. And one of the things one of the Israeli officials said is, well, we can't let the flotilla in because that'll set precedent. It'll set precedent to humanize the Palestinians and feed them. I know I'm going on a tangent, but I had to. Because Greta Thunberg, who is
There's a
single-handedly,
chapter about Gaza in my book, don't worry.
I love you, Tet. Yes, you have been a stalwart, because a lot of you have been afraid to speak out about Gaza. And I mean you ministers, out of fear of being called anti-Semitic, or being called, fear of, being called anti-Semitic, and and the biggest harm that this Israeli government has done is conflate criticisms of Israel and even anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. They're not the same thing. If a country, in order for it to exist, has to annihilate an entire group of people, as we know in the United States and Canada, that is evil. It is not. I don't care why. Their Manifest Destiny had all kinds of reasons why they told the indigenous population of the United States they don't belong here and they need to die. So this is not a moral, ethical high ground. It is not. If you have to annihilate other people, you have to think about what it is you're trying to build. Because I'll tell you, I never thought in my life, I'm an Egyptian, I never thought the world would take up the Palestinian cause the way it has. And on one hand, while I'm grateful that now we can openly talk about Palestine and be in support of Palestine, the fact that we have not been able to stop this, I can't quite reconcile. And there are times that I break down so much that I can't think about it, or else it's so overwhelming. But Tet, you've been one of the ministers who's been have clarity.
But my God, the dehumanization of Palestinians, it has humanized me so much over the year. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know, like how much I hurt other people by being not like that, by not loving like that, like by not being a hero to others like that, So now I, I feel like I need to be a Palestinian wherever I am, like how do they love others? I want to be that.
How do they love others? That's what Anthony Bourdain said. Courage belongs to the Palestinians. I mean, and I talked ad nauseum about Ta-Nehisi Coates and his trip and his using his social capital to tell the world what is happening is apartheid, what is happening is wrong. And even when people tried to say, oh, but, he said, there's nothing you're going to say that's going to convince me that this is anything about this is moral or correct. Nothing.
Yeah, I was just told the other day there's a minister that we know. Her biggest church donor just disappeared because she spoke about Palestine, and so the church is suffering. And I think that's not an isolated incident.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
It's crazy, but we still have to be the friends they need, and that is to speak the truth, and that is to tell them that it won't all be bleak if we just open our eyes, right?
Yeah.
Together, like as a community. One of the things that was my one of my crazy experiences is, I don't know if you have tried the velada, right? So it is a retreat that is monitored by a medicine man. Okay, they give you the medicine and you have dreams, right? So in one of those dreams, I was told, this is your message, this should always be your message when you come into a room. Because usually us, we're like, we come into a room and we're like, I have clout and that's because I want you to listen to me, because I have enough credibility, right? And I think it's just human to do that. But when it comes to, let's say, NGOs, we can be so overly competitive, like, no, 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 I have more clout than you. And so it's counterproductive, right? So one of the insights that I got from my vision is, when you come into a room, the message of your being must be, I mean you no harm. I'm not here to harm you.
Mm.
Just like that, right? And so I was like, how can I spread this message, right? Then one day, one of my friends said, hey, you want to do the 5-minute invocation in an international interfaith meeting? And I'm like, oh, sure, 5 minutes, why not, right? So I went there and I tested this message. So my first message when I got there was, I mean you no harm. I'm not here to harm you. And I just saw like the faces change, like just released. And then I said, that was the message I was told to give you by the Spirit. And this is the prayer, So I continued, right? And then they said, oh my God, that was so impactful. And I said, I have no idea what I did, but that was Spirit led. And you know what happened? So they asked me, how much was the fee for that? Before the invocation and after, they said, oh, you should have asked for double. Because the impact was there. And I think we should be conscious of the energy we bring, that it is not combative, it is not, like with animosity, right?
I I love this concept of friendship as the primary frame for divine action and presence. Because I think in the West, and because I talk about a lot about this in the West is obsessed with romance. The West is obsessed with sort of Hollywood fairy tale notions about falling in love, just two people and against the odds and da 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 da, forsaking everything else for love and love being enough, no matter if they have money. Like, it's all of this fantasy about love, and we spend very little time talking about friendship.
Amen.
Mm-hmm. And we have seen how harmful that is, when people become incapable of having actual relationships with people because they've skipped over friendship to try this romanticized, propagandized, colonialized nonsense.
Yeah. In my coaching work, I ask people, I say, why do you have different rules for romantic partnership than friendship? I said, I have best friends. I don't run around. Are you cheating on me? Are you friending anybody else? That was never a concern because I know that I love my friends and my friends love me, and no one can replace that. I don't have to be jealous about them friending with other people. But in romance, we stoke people to be so anxious and always pensive. And I just think and I told people, I have been chronically single my entire adult life. And I was like, but if I have a partner, it will be because that person was my friend. If I don't like you enough to be friends with you, how can I build a life with you?
Hello.
Amen.
See, that's what's hard about casual sex for me, because I'm not into casual sex so much. But when I tried it, I was like, I thought it was supposed to make us deeper into friendship, right? So the next day I'm like, hey, so how are you? How are you dating? And they're like, don't be creepy, Tet. I'm like, oh, how is that creepy?
Oh, that's another show that we might have to do.
Well, I have for many years taught sexuality education in and out of Unitarian Universalist congregations, and the Our Lives lifespan curriculum that we teach in our churches starts with like what makes a relationship, and not what makes a romantic relationship, but what makes a relationship. How do you keep a friend, right? Like, what does it mean to trust someone? What does it mean to be vulnerable with someone and to to build intimacy, without the need for physicality, right? And that's what friendship is, right? It's intimacy.
Right. Very much so.
Or without that agenda of exclusivity, the you and me against the world, without that agenda, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
My dear child, who is almost 12 and autistic, has not met someone that she will not call her best friend. And early on, there was this reactivity, like you can't have more than one best friend, right? Like best is a superlative that only gets given to one person. And pretty soon we just realized, no, like your heart is so big and beautiful.
Oh no.
That there's room for more. I think Tet is back.
Yeah.
Right. There's room for more than one. It does not have to be an exclusive. You don't have to be defining an exclusive relationship. They're like, they're all your besties, and that's great.
Yeah, but
I wish everyone could live like that. Go on, Dante.
No, I was just saying, I just think that I watch my friends who are really smart, rational, beautiful people get into romantic situations and absolutely lose it because we teach in the West that you use different rules. In the West, romance is never about friendship. It's about we saw each other across a crowded room and we began running to each other. Like, I don't know your politics. I don't I
Soulmate.
I don't know your
Soulmate.
value system, but I'm in love. You know.
Well, I heard something on the radio recently. It was like on NPR or something, because I listen to lots of NPR about like people who are in relationships though they voted for different people in the last election. And I'm like, listen,
Absolutely not.
like if someone's values are so different from mine that they voted for someone different than me in the last US election, like I couldn't be in a friendship with them, much less be married to them.
Oh, hell
Please.
no. You're going to vote for my death. You do not get access to my body.
Thank you.
Or
I'm
my
like,
heart.
You know,
you
again,
know,
Americans. Oh, Jefferson was in love with Sally Hemings. Jefferson
Bullshit.
owned Sally Hemings. How could that? So love and ownership are like that's a
In
crazy
some leather
concept.
communities, in some leather communities, that can happen, but it's
right,
but
but
it's
that's
a
with
consensual thing.
consent.
That's with
Right.
consent. That's right.
That is with
Right.
radical
That's not.
consent.
I legally
Yeah,
can do whatever I want to you without impunity.
That's true. That is right. Yes.
You know, and like, and Sally Hemings. Well, I'm sure she might have pretended because he owned her.
Because her life depended on it. Let's all take it easy here with that. I mean,
Right. And she tried to negotiate the freedom of her children.
that's right. That's right. That's
So
right.
this is why in my commitment ceremonies, like same-sex weddings, as you would call it over there, it's not legal here, so we just say commitment ceremonies. I have community vows. The community also commits to make sure that these two are supported, in ways where they do not understand how, and maybe you're the one who could clarify it, right? Something like that.
I say,
Every wedding ceremony that I do has something like that. Maybe I'm just a
Yeah.
closet Filipino. I'm okay with that. I mean, it also could be part of the Italian culture that like I need to go
True.
deeper on. But like
We
it's
all,
every
we're
wedding
feeling
ceremony.
like we're Italians.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, I'm a middle-aged woman divorced and dating, and whenever a guy won't tell me who he voted for, I'm like, and we're not going
Bye.
this. Or
Like,
if they
that
try to
shouldn't
tell
matter.
me, or if they try to tell me they're centrist, I'm like, so you're halfway to a Nazi, and we're done here. Absolutely not. No.
That or they say the other killer is, well, I don't even vote. I'm sorry. Get out of my house. Get out of my house.
They're also
just go.
lying.
Just
I don't
fucking
believe
go.
that
But
shit. Or
but
maybe
it's-
they're not
it's-
lying. I don't know. But
It's fundamentally about values, right? Do our values align?
Right.
And like if your values don't include care for your neighbor, if your values don't include care for strangers you have never met on the other side of the world, then like I don't know where we can meet.
right.
Right? Like,
Well, I know where we can meet. That ain't gonna last very long. But yeah, but we definitely not gonna build a future as partners.
And like we are, I think, yeah, anyone in the world is only like 3 degrees apart from someone, right? It's before it used to be 6 degrees, and I think it's now like 3 to 4 degrees. So
I learned last week or the week before that apparently Kevin Bacon, who there was the famous 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
Kevin Bacon was a Unitarian Universalist. So all of us are 1 degree from Kevin
Shut
Bacon.
up. Is that true?
Woo-woo!
We keep trying to collect
No,
people who are not
he actually like is or was a member of a UU congregation.
Wow.
So is Amy Sprinkle.
So one degree. There we go. That's right.
nice.
My mom
All
will
of
be
you.
proud.
All right, Tet, what were you saying about 2 or 3 degrees? What?
Yeah, I was like, I gave a sermon about that, like who owns the conversation, right? Because society is corrupted insidiously by how our conversations are corrupted. And so Like if we get to really know how many degrees apart we are from each other, like how close we are to each other actually, right? Like 1 degree to Kevin Bacon. Oh yeah. Then how would I use that? How would I use that? Knowing that the conversation is flowing between us without our knowing it, right? Are we influencing each other in ways we don't know about? And how can that kind of conversation be corrupted in ways that separates us, right?
Mm.
And the thing about friendship, I've lived a lot of places throughout my life. The thing that is beautiful and the gift of friendship is the time and the investment of getting to know each other. I think you had said this earlier. Friendship is intimacy without the agenda. It is about going on a journey and learning about each other and appreciating each other. And without that, whatever the agenda is, whether it's sex or marriage or whatever, without that, there really does develop a kind of intimacy that doesn't have the propaganda of whatever current, romance is supposed to be. I mean, it is propaganda. I've now call it that. So I think there's something, and I think to go back to Friends Against the Machine, Humanizing the Revolution, great title, by the way. That's the thing I say to folks. I think, falling into despair is not going to do anything except have fascism win. And what I've heard people say recently is fascism in the United States is when what's been happening to Black and brown people now happens to white people, because some version of this has been happening to Black and brown people in the United States and all over the global South, right? So fascism is not new, not even here. It is new for white people, especially, I mean, yeah, sure, being apparently somebody just texted me that Egypt's on the banned list. Okay, cool. Whatever the fuck. But I think leaning into friendship, connection, get to know who's around you, know people's names. So my neighbors make fun of me because now when the doors are open this summer, I yell, from wherever I'm sitting, I'm like, I'll yell out the window, hello, and they'll park their car near me, and it's like the neighborhood joke. But I know most of my neighbors, almost everybody, at least by name. If not, I haven't been to their house. They've been to my house. And I think leaning into that is how, and because then we care, then we give a shit when we know the person. I mean, it would be great that we give a shit for the masses. That would be ideal. And I understand why people don't have capacity for that, but you can get to know the people who are around you, right?
I think if we must arm ourselves, let us arm ourselves with tools for helpership, right? Like I'd
Really,
like to
like
know,
some pots and pans and Tupperwares.
yeah.
But I also think there's a thing about acknowledging that, and particularly in the West, and I see it here in the United States, I think people could live like that more if they didn't feel like they were forced to live in spaces that are not the spaces they want to live in. So again, as a Black professional, I've had to live in the middle of nowhere over and over and over again, surrounded by people who don't look like me, think like me, act like me. And it makes you want to isolate because it's like, I wouldn't choose to live here. These are not my people, but I need this job, right? And so if we lived in a world where we could live in community with the people to whom we are accountable to and with, I think we would see more of that, more of this friends against the machine. And yes, I love this imagery. I'm getting very much Star Wars vibes, like friends against the machine. I love this title.
Thank
So,
you.
Tet, we have 1 minute left. Is there anything thank you. This has been so amazing. Thank you for staying up so late to meet with us, to be on the show. What would you like? Any last words for the last minute?
Yeah, I will be coming out with a new edition to include all those sections that I thought were there but were omitted by me. Anyway, yeah, there will be a new edition, and I hope we can launch it end of the year. Yeah.
Are you
Thank
coming
you all.
to General Assembly? Are you coming to Baltimore?
No, but my book hopefully will be there.
Okay, excellent. We'll look for it. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
So wonderful to meet you, Ted.
Yes.
Yes, so great to meet you all, really. Thank you.
Hugs for you. Thank you. And next week is our season finale. So see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining us. Special thanks to those of you who give generously to this ministry. It is because of you that this ministry is possible. You can click the link in the description to give now or visit clfuu.org/give for more information. We hope you will join us next week for another episode of The View.